Welcome to another episode of Thoughts from the Big Chair. Now, in the big chair this week, we have Yosh Eisbart from Fulfilled. How are you doing, Yosh?
I'm doing great, Russell. How you doing?
Yeah, really good. Now, let's jump in and tell us a bit more about your organization, Fulfilled, because it's a SaaS-based platform. I know that, but I'm really interested to hear more about how it came about, what it is that you have created, and what need it's fulfilling, and then we can get into more around what the technology is that you've deployed and how you've grown it.
Absolutely. So, kind of in a nutshell, Fulfilled is the evolution of a previous startup that my business partner and I started in 2009. And to give a little bit of context, in 2009, we started an enterprise software and services company called Nimble. It was self-funded, and we actually exited in August of this past year. And during the course of the 10-ish so years with Nimble, we worked within the enterprise software space, and we would resell enterprise software, primarily a product called SAP. We would implement, we would support their business critical applications 24 by 7, and we would build custom warehouse IoT integrated functionality that would plug into SAP's core ERP. And time and time again, our customers, and we had large customers, some of the listeners may have heard of, like a Nestle or an Exxon or a Pepsi. They would often not want to go through the challenges of implementing another enterprise warehouse management product, such as a Manhattan or a Blue Yonder or a Corver, et cetera. And instead, they would ask us, hey, Nimble, are you capable of building for us a hardware and a software integrated extension that would, quote unquote, easily plug into SAP warehouse management? And we did that. We did it time and time again. We never brought that functionality to market back in the Nimble days. So after selling our company, or quite frankly, while we were still with our company, we felt like this was a wonderful white space that, quite frankly, isn't being capitalized. And so, hence, Fulfilled was born. Fulfilled, we are an intelligent warehouse management orchestration platform. We're cloud native, and one of the differentiations is that not only are we a software as a service, but we are also a hardware as a service. So our product is both hardware and software bundled per user per month. And then there's a whole host of differentiations outside of that. So really, Michael Pytel, my business partner, he and I are really good at learning from the past experiences and, quite frankly, the mistakes that we've made. And so now, Fulfilled, we're really trying to not only revolutionize the cloud native warehouse management world, which is pretty old school and on-prem focused. There's a transition, but really trying to kind of change the way folks look at kind of warehouse management as a service.
Yeah, and everything's moving to as a service. Tell us a bit about the hardware that you're using, because that's a different twist on some of the software as a service models.
Absolutely. So our competition, and they're not yet aware of it yet, they focus on the software. Much of it is on-prem right now. Several of them are doing a migration to cloud. The fact is that with so much technical debt out there with on-premise software, it's in essence a re-implementation of the software. So they've got a lot on their plate just to focus on the software as a service component. And so typically in the customer's perspective, they have 3 sales cycles that they need to go through in order to implement a comprehensive warehouse management uh, product or feature and function. So first they have to choose the software. So they choose the software. Then they need to choose an integrator, such as an IBM or Deloitte or a Nimble, to do the implementation. And then they need to select a hardware provider, the scanners, and they need to then do a selection process amongst Panasonics, the Honeywells, or the Zebras. What we're trying to do is disrupt that entire sales cycle by having them only have to choose fulfilled. So we have our own proprietary, patents pending scanners that are allowing us to bundle the hardware components into a monthly package with the software, making it a much less friction-ish process for the customers. What our hardware does, which is unique even among the hardware just on a standalone against the Zebras and the Honeywells, is that we are location aware. And what that means is that our scanners have the ability, based upon our technology, to identify where the warehouse worker is located 6 times a second, or with our other technology, which in essence is this fulfilled special sauce chip, we are able then also to identify where an asset is, whether that be a forklift, an ASRS, a pick to light, a drone, a robot. And with all of that rich location awareness, capturing the location either of a warehouse worker or of a machine, we're able to pump all of that rich location aware data into our SaaS product and our machine learning algorithms, then to be able to proactively and systematically create directed tasks between human and non-human. So our hardware is very much hardware as a service, again, which is part of a bundle of our software, is very much part of our greater holistic thesis.
And did you select the SaaS components? So when you think about building a SaaS platform, is that integration of other SaaS products, or is it build it from the start, from the ground up?
No, we're building this ground up, and we've been in the enterprise software world for our entire careers in various ERP applications, whether that be the Oracle, the JDEs, or the SAPs, or other. And so, with the 20 plus years of scars, if you will, we felt like it would be a game changer for us to take all those lessons learned and build it from the ground up. So no, our product is a full-on brand new application and suite of hardware that is on the software side built on Google's cloud platform.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And so the challenge that you no doubt come across quite frequently is making sure that these location aware sensors are connected all of the time. How do you get that challenge tackled?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we have partnered with one of the best ultra wideband hardware companies out there, and we're white labeling that through Fulfilled. So we know what we know, and we know that other people's know better in certain areas than we know, and so this technology that we're leveraging and putting together via our own IP is leveraging a trusted partner that's been doing this for quite some time, but the technology that they have is different than many others on the market. And I mean, I can get into details on that, but basically, they are the experts within location awareness around creation of a digital canopy within the warehouse. So
Right.
we, as part of our process, we deploy beacons within the ceilings of the warehouse, which help create then the digital twin of the warehouse. What's different in our world is that, as opposed to triangulation on positioning, which the competition has, which in essence the signal needs to bounce off of the ceiling anchor, we've got the ability to do positioning on device peer to peer. And so that's definitely something that creates another differentiation within our greater value prop.
I hear digital twins more and more these days. Tell us about how you see digital twins playing out from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, so much now. We do hear a lot in terms of buzzwords and yeah, smart buildings or digital twin. The way that we see digital twin, in essence, is um, the digitization or the rendering of a physical space within the software. And by creating a schematic, if you will, around X, Y, and Z coordinates within your software, that creates tremendous power on how to leverage that data. And one of the challenges or one of the opportunities that we're working on right now is we've got all this phenomenal rich location data around how a warehouse worker is navigating throughout their shift in the warehouse. What's the spaghetti path or the heat map on how your warehouse workers are navigating their position, their steps, their breaks, etc. And really, the opportunity we have is how can we most optimize that rich data so that we can then become more efficient in how our customers orchestrate the performance within the warehouse. So digital twin, the way we look at that is that it's the digitization and the visualization and the schematic of the physical space within the software's brain.
Yeah, yeah, and it's technology is obviously a key aspect of Fulfill, and yeah, I think we're going to get Michael, your CTO, on as well to kind of dig a bit deeper. But one of the things which certainly has been impressive at Nimble, and I'm sure has been a really good way to learn from the past and bring that into your current, is growing SaaS platforms. So maybe you can share with us some of the insights of how you've gotten Fulfilled started. I mean, you're the classic example where you stepped into a market opportunity. You and a co-founder, where people may not have heard of you, and trying to build our brand, take it to market, grow it, are all challenges. So tell us your story. How have you gone about that? What's your kind of methodology, if you will, for trying out new pricing, going into attracting eyeballs, fulfill the customer demand? Tell us how you've gone about doing that.
Yeah, so and apologies for continuing to go back into a past life, but as mentioned, we're really leveraging our nimble experience to help us scale even quicker with Fulfilled. When we left Nimble, our footprint was a nice size. I mean, we were over 300 employees in the U.S. We were part of a global organization that acquired us, and so much of our experience in building previously an enterprise services and software company was around thought leadership. There's a great book out there, probably a decade old, from the folks from 37 Signals. I think they've rebranded Basecamp, but it's a book called Rework. And I highlight that often. And their whole concept is which is exactly what I'm doing right now, is emulating a chef or be a chef. And the concept is that um, the Wolfgang Pucks and the Emeralds and the famous chefs out there, they've got their cooking shows where they literally will go through the recipe of how to make a shepherd's pie, and they'll show that recipe, and from that, you'll have folks that will try to make the pie. You'll have folks that'll just watch it. You'll have folks that'll order it. But through that, in essence, you're creating an audience through education. Well, we're doing the same thing at Fulfilled, and we did that previously at Nimble, meaning that as opposed to going out there and talking about why Fulfilled is the greatest warehouse management orchestration platform that can reduce footsteps and increase efficiency and safety, blah, 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 blah. Instead, we're talking about how there are opportunities to, from a warehousing perspective, be able to increase efficiencies for everybody, not just through our software, but these are things that we're teaching. And through that thought leadership, through that education, we're building the trust with prospective customers or even partners through collaboration. And through that trust, that in turn creates sales opportunities. Just last week, you're mentioning Michael, our CTO, Fulfilled CTO. Michael was on Google's global community or user group called C2C. And within the webinar, which had folks from all over the world, he was talking about, as a Google customer, because Fulfilled is built on Google Cloud Platform, how we are architecting, designing, and scaling our SaaS product, leveraging the richness of the Google set of infrastructure and tools. So to answer your question, sorry, I'm a sales guy, is that we believe that the best way to scale any business, whether SaaS or other, is really to be out there and sharing experiences more on lessons learned for the greater community and less about like a used car salesman, why Fulfilled's the best software ever.
And what sort of metrics do you judge as being really important for that SaaS-based platform? I mean, for example, at what point do you get enough customers there to think, actually, now that we've hit something and we think this is actually going to scale? Because so many SaaS-based businesses try and get the right point where they are trying to grow the business and trying to recognize when they've got enough critical mass. How do you know when you've got the right critical mass?
It's interesting. I was with a fellow CEO yesterday, and we were talking about, so Fulfilled, we're early on in our journey. We're less than a year old. We're just about to close our seed VC funding, and we do have betas, customers that are either paid or in the process of being deployed. So we are early on. I think, depends upon which perspective. And for me, in terms of the metrics, as a CEO and looking to scale, for us, it's around the ACV, the annual contract value, and what type of consumption is out there among your customers. And really, that's how you prove out, outside of the PowerPoints or the webinars or the shiny objects. The proof is in the pudding in regards to our customers buying. So from my perspective, I feel that ACV and what's the consumption from a revenue perspective. However, the fellow CEO who's got a similar in life cycle, he has a SaaS-based product. within the HR space, dynamite guy, Joe Thurman. His company's called Interview IA. He is viewing it around velocity, which I thought was really interesting because I hadn't looked at it that way. And I didn't really know what he meant. And I asked him, and from his perspective, velocity is quite frankly less about ACV, but more about what is the number of customers and what is then the land and expand within that customer base. And that really challenged some of my thinking, and it's still very much focused on ACV because I feel that from a market perspective, that's what the market values in terms of, what's your greater spend. Obviously, you don't want to have too much consolidation within, given set of customers. You want to have some spread for de-risking, but he was looking at velocity. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, certainly a new one on me as well. I've not come across that. The Talk to me about pricing, because obviously SaaS-based platforms give you the opportunity to play around quite easily with pricing, and segment the product as you need to. So, any thoughts on where you start? How do you price your SaaS-based platform once you've got your business?
So the way that we've looked at pricing is within our competition, much of the vast majority of customer base out there is on premise still. Well north of 80%. And the way that model has been designed is the old school software purchase up front. So it's a capital expenditure up front. And these are not inexpensive products among our competition. And, for a footprint of a mid-market organization, it's at least, give or take $500,000 for any type of warehouse that we're talking about and the number of users. So you have a CapEx up front, and then you have an annual maintenance cost around 20%. So the way that we looked at it, just in terms of this is definitely behind the curtain, is how can we slide in our pricing that is underneath that 20% annual maintenance, so that outside of all of the richness around innovation and optimization and efficiency, cost savings, lower TCO, those are all added benefits. From a pure cost perspective, how can we slip underneath that 20% or 22% annual maintenance, so that it's not a sticker shock for our buyers? That is our premise right now, and then we reverse engineer. Our target ACV is around $250K per customer, and so we feel like for mid-market organizations, which we define as organizations of 300 million US dollar annual revenue or turnover, that type of 250K purchase is something that, in our experience working in this world, sure, it's something that is real money, but it's not something that needs to go all the way up to the board.
Yeah, yeah. Just generally on the other experiences of growing SaaS-based businesses, do you use social media? How going back to your point around sharing and trying to share your experiences, how much are you relying on social media? Which sort of channels are the most useful?
So we believe strongly in digital marketing, and so for us, it's a multi-pronged approach. In terms of social media, and maybe it's because I'm an old dog, I probably need my kids to come in to help re-educate me on what would be maybe the better model. But for us, LinkedIn is the source, and it's tremendously powerful. We've literally found customers, or customers have literally found us through our digital market presence on LinkedIn. And again, it's around the sharing of information, and it also needs to be pretty consistent. You need to have a presence out there to be able to start getting eyeballs on it. We're not even at this point right now doing paid publishing in the sense of a promotion of posts. We did that in our past life, and that had tremendous success. But even just through organic impressions and talking about some market research paper that we found, which quite frankly may be on a grander supply chain or logistics or warehousing um, topic and having nothing directly related to us. Just in terms of sharing, we get eyeballs on that. We end up getting followers. We end up getting leads. We also, and we're not there yet, but we will move towards multi-touch digital campaigns, and those consist of again thought sharing around trends, customer experience, innovation, partnerships. Those are things that for us in our past life were tremendously successful, but because the market and the social media world is so congested, it really needs to be thoughtfully curated, because just throwing out a post out there, which many folks do, you may get some eyeballs on it, but everyone is obviously, this is not remotely prophetic, but bombarded with so much requests for eyeballs that it needs to be something that's thoughtful, especially specific on the audience you're looking for. That we're looking for, C-suite directors of supply chain. Us doing a picture of a puppy dog is, all well and good, and quite frankly, maybe get some eyeballs needed. But we want to be thoughtful on the content we put out there. But again, to answer your question, for us, it's LinkedIn. We're not on any other channel right now.
A final point really is when it comes to what you're seeing in your space, where a lot of people are still on-prem. How fast do you think the digital adoption is going to be over the course of the next few years? And yeah, I guess allied to that, have you seen any change because of COVID?
So definitely have seen change in COVID. I mean, as we all know, whatever the metric is, 10 years have been condensed into 10 months. So absolutely. I mean, our thesis around fulfilled and the need for warehouse optimization predates COVID. However, with COVID and the nuclear acceleration of direct to consumer, and now everyone expecting to have product delivered, not even next day, but same day, that B2B migration to D2C, direct to consumer, absolutely, that's accelerated the need for warehouse optimization. So yeah, that for sure is something that we have seen. And in regards to the kind of the grander question around, what's the acceleration of those from an on-prem? I think that the leaders now who are in seat on making these decisions are much more savvy and much more educated on what's possible through cloud. And 10 years ago when we started Nimble, or 15 years ago, and when folks would say, I will never move to the cloud because of security issues, or it's unproven, or I want to have my own data center, those days are gone. I mean, you're still going to have some, but when you've got, the U.S. government or the U.S. Army or other, entities globally that are in the cloud, whether AWS or Google or Azure or what have you, it's that ship has sailed, and I think that there's a mass acceleration that's happening as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, when we talk about kind of foundational technologies, the cloud is one that is now starting to accelerate the migration into kind of secondary and tertiary developments of technology, and get right away from cloud to high bandwidth with 5G, with the new chipsets for the edge, and right away through to machine learning. So there's an awful lot coming, and it's all very exciting for, I'm sure, your space, which, being in the warehousing efficiency market, can only be accelerated with further and further demand, as you say, from the big guys who are facilitating distribution, whether that's Amazon or Shopify or whomever. But certainly a very interesting space, and one which is going to be rapidly impacted through the adoption of further technology.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yosh, great to have you on the show, and thanks for sharing your insights. Some tremendously insightful points there, and thanks once again for coming on.
No, thank you for taking the time to speak with me. I really enjoyed it.